Masculine magnetism is not born from words, possessions, or charm. It arises from the mastery of energy, direction, and discipline. At the heart of that mastery lies semen retention, the ancient yet timeless practice of preserving one's vital essence to cultivate strength, clarity, and presence. In a world that glorifies indulgence and distraction, semen retention stands as a radical act of self-control and conscious living. It is a commitment to protect the life force that fuels creation itself. Through this discipline, a man transcends his impulses and channels his energy toward purpose, personal evolution, and influence. The result is a form of magnetism that is subtle yet undeniable, a powerful field of energy that draws respect, admiration, and attraction without the need for pursuit. Semen retention transforms a man from the inside out because it reorders his priorities and stabilizes his emotions. When the constant pull of lust no longer dictates his actions, his mind becomes focused, his demeanor calm, and his body energized. This shift from reactive to intentional living creates a profound internal balance. Instead of chasing temporary pleasure, he begins to chase excellence. Instead of seeking validation from others, he begins to validate himself through progress. This inner realignment is what ancient traditions referred to as the awakening of masculine power. It is not aggression or domination. It is control, composure, and clarity, the traits that naturally command, respect, and inspire the feminine. Every man possesses sexual energy, the raw creative force that can either be wasted or transformed. When misused, it leads to fatigue, confusion, and emotional instability. But when contained and transmuted, it becomes fuel for success. Semen retention harnesses this energy and redirects it toward productivity, confidence, and vision. Over time, this shift becomes visible in a man's aura. His eyes sharpen, his movements become deliberate, and his words carry weight. He no longer speaks to impress. He speaks with conviction. This is the essence of masculine magnetism, not the projection of strength, but the embodiment of it. Masculine energy is defined by direction, purpose, and depth. Without direction, that energy dissipates. Without purpose, it stagnates. Semen retention restores both. When a man chooses to conserve his energy, he begins to feel a natural surge of drive and ambition. His focus strengthens, his goals become clearer, and his capacity for discipline expands. He is no longer enslaved by impulse, but guided by intention. Women, whether they consciously realize it or not, sense this shift immediately. The man who once sought attention now radiates it effortlessly. His stillness becomes more powerful than another man's noise. True magnetism comes not from seeking approval, but from being centered in one's own presence. A man who practices semen retention embodies this effortlessly because his self-worth no longer depends on external feedback. The feminine, attuned to subtle energetic cues, is drawn to that independence. It represents stability, a quality increasingly rare in modern men. When she encounters a man who is grounded, composed, and undistracted, she feels both curiosity and safety. His presence allows her to relax into her natural feminine state of openness and flow. This dynamic is not forced, it's the natural dance of polarity. His containment invites her expression, his stillness calls forth her motion. The modern culture of instant gratification has made it difficult for men to experience this power. Excessive stimulation from screens, entertainment, and casual indulgence keeps energy scattered. The masculine becomes fragmented, restless, and anxious. Semen retention reverses this state by rebuilding energetic integrity. It's like sealing the leaks in a vessel so that pressure, symbolic of energy, can build within. That pressure, when directed through purpose, creates impact. It's the difference between a candle flame flickering in the wind and a focused laser cutting through steel. The more energy a man retains and refines, the more focused his influence becomes. There's also a neurological transformation that supports this energetic one. Studies have shown that retention can elevate testosterone, stabilize dopamine, and sharpen mental focus. Beyond science, there's an experiential truth. The man who practices retention feels more alive. His senses sharpen, his creativity expands, and his motivation increases. He begins to move with intention rather than habit. This self-mastery radiates through every aspect of his being: posture, tone, decision-making, and even silence. In this way, semen retention becomes more than just a practice. It becomes a philosophy of living consciously in a world addicted to unconscious consumption. However, semen retention alone does not create magnetism. It amplifies what already exists within. If a man retains energy but lacks direction, that energy can turn into frustration. If he suppresses rather than transforms desire, he risks stagnation. The secret is transmutation, redirecting sexual energy into action, creativity, and purpose. When a man learns to channel his arousal into productivity, he activates his highest potential. His energy no longer seeks escape, it seeks expression. This is where masculine magnetism reaches its full form, when desire becomes fuel for achievement, not a distraction from it. This transformation begins with awareness. Every urge becomes an opportunity to choose mastery over impulse. Each moment of restraint builds willpower, and that willpower strengthens the masculine core. With time, that discipline permeates all areas of life: diet, sleep, work, relationships, and thought. The man who once lived in chaos begins to live in rhythm. His consistency generates respect and admiration naturally. The world begins to respond differently to him because he has changed his energetic signature. What he attracts shifts from chaos to order, from distraction to purpose, from lust to love. Semen retention also deepens self-respect. A man who can govern his own desires gains an unshakable confidence that no external validation can replace. He doesn't need to prove his worth through conquest or comparison. He knows his value through his discipline. This self-assurance changes his interactions entirely. He listens more, reacts less, and expresses himself with quiet authority. He no longer chases because he realizes that what he seeks is already within him. Women, sensing this energy, respond not out of curiosity but reverence. They recognize the rarity of a man who has mastered himself. The path of masculine magnetism is not about perfection but progress. It's about becoming a man who is guided by principles, not impulses. Semen retention provides the foundation for that growth because it demands responsibility. It challenges a man to confront his habits, his desires, and his lack of control. Each challenge overcome becomes a milestone of mastery, and mastery is magnetic. The masculine energy that emerges from consistent practice is not loud or boastful. It's quiet, contained, and powerful. It's the type of energy that influences without speaking, that leads without forcing. At a deeper level, semen retention aligns the masculine with the laws of nature. Nature rewards preservation and purposeful use of energy. Just as a river that flows with direction gains power, so too does a man who channels his energy toward creation rather than dissipation. This principle applies to every domain: business, relationships, and spirituality. The man who guards his essence guards his destiny. He becomes the sculptor of his life rather than its spectator. His magnetism no longer depends on luck or appearance, but on the vibration he emits through consistent mastery. That is the true meaning of masculine power: quiet, refined, and magnetic by nature. As a man progresses along the path of semen retention, he begins to notice that his perception of women and relationships evolves. What once was driven by lust and the need for validation transforms into appreciation and emotional clarity. The feminine is no longer a source of distraction but an inspiration that mirrors his own energy. This awareness reshapes the dynamic between man and woman. He no longer seeks to possess or impress. Instead, he seeks connection through authenticity. His attraction is no longer reactive but intentional. Such a man understands that the true expression of masculinity is not in conquest but in presence, the ability to meet the feminine with calm depth rather than frantic desire. This shift also influences how others perceive him. People begin to sense that his energy is different, grounded, reliable, and free from restlessness. In conversation, he doesn't rush to fill silence. He allows it. His words carry intention because his mind is clear. His actions are measured because his emotions are steady. Even in moments of stress or conflict, his composure remains intact. This unshakable calm is one of the hallmarks of masculine magnetism. It has a quality that cannot be faked or bought. It must be built through the patient discipline of self-control. The man who has mastered himself commands respect, not through dominance, but through presence. The discipline of semen retention also nurtures creativity, the essence of masculine contribution to the world. When a man no longer dissipates his energy through constant gratification, he naturally feels compelled to build, to write, to innovate, or to lead. This creative impulse is the natural evolution of contained energy. Every moment of self-restraint becomes a seed of potential that can blossom into achievement. History is filled with men who understood this: inventors, philosophers, and leaders who channeled their energy toward creation instead of indulgence. The modern man who rediscovers this truth gains a competitive edge in a world drowning in distraction. His focus becomes his superpower. However, the practice is not without its challenges. The very energy that gives life is also the most powerful and volatile. Without proper understanding, it can create tension or frustration. This is why transmutation, the process of consciously redirecting energy, is essential. Through exercise, meditation, breathwork, and creative expression, a man learns to circulate his energy upward rather than letting it stagnate. Over time, this becomes natural. The tension that once caused discomfort transforms into vitality. His energy radiates through his eyes, his skin, and his voice. He doesn't need to announce his strength. People feel it in his presence. There is a spiritual dimension to semen retention that transcends biology and psychology. Many ancient traditions viewed sexual energy as sacred, the same energy that fuels enlightenment. When retained and purified, it awakens higher awareness. A man becomes more intuitive, more compassionate, and more connected to the world around him. His relationships deepen, not because of effort, but because his energy carries truth. This form of magnetism attracts not only romantic partners, but also allies, mentors, and opportunities. The universe, so to speak, aligns with his frequency because he is aligned within himself. True masculine magnetism arises when power meets humility. Retention without humility can lead to pride, but retention with awareness leads to wisdom. The wise man understands that his energy is not meant to be hoarded but guided. He channels it into service, to his goals, his loved ones, and his community. In doing so, he becomes a source of stability for others. This is the highest expression of masculine energy, to create order, protection, and growth. Women, children, and even other men feel safe in the presence of such grounded masculinity. It's an energy that uplifts rather than dominates, that inspires rather than controls. With time, semen retention refines not just physical or emotional energy, but moral strength. The man becomes more discerning about how he spends his time, who he associates with, and what he allows into his mind. His boundaries strengthen, not out of fear, but out of respect for his energy. He recognizes that not every situation deserves his attention, and not every person deserves his intimacy. This self-respect filters his environment, allowing him to build a life filled with purpose and peace. It is this discernment, the ability to say no to what weakens him, that keeps his magnetism pure and potent. A man who walks this path soon realizes that attraction, in its truest form, is not about pursuit but gravity. The stronger his purpose, the stronger his gravitational pull. Women and opportunities begin to revolve around him naturally, drawn to his certainty and clarity. But unlike the man who chases, he does not grasp at what comes. He allows his energy, like a well-tuned instrument, vibrates in harmony with what aligns and releases what does not. This effortless attraction is the result of balance, masculine focus, complemented by inner peace. Semen retention also redefines how a man relates to success. Instead of being driven by ego or external reward, he becomes motivated by mastery. He understands that the process itself, the daily act of discipline, creation, and integrity, is the reward. His happiness is no longer contingent on outcomes because his fulfillment comes from within. This detachment makes him even more magnetic. People are drawn to those who move with purpose but without desperation. His ambition feels clean, his confidence genuine. He embodies the principle that true power is calm, not loud, assured, not anxious. The benefits of this path extend into emotional intelligence as well. Retention stabilizes mood and enhances self-awareness. A man becomes less reactive and more responsive. He learns to observe emotions without being controlled by them. This gives him an edge in both relationships and leadership. When others panic, he remains composed. When others lose focus, he stays steady. This emotional equilibrium enhances trust, and trust, whether in business or love, is the foundation of all connection. Through self-mastery, he becomes a pillar others can lean on, a quiet force in a chaotic world. The practice also teaches patience, one of the most underrated masculine virtues. In holding back from impulsive pleasure, a man learns the art of delayed gratification. That same patience translates into his work, relationships, and spiritual life. He no longer seeks immediate results. He builds steadily, knowing that all worthwhile things require time. This patient persistence is another form of magnetism. It communicates depth, reliability, and wisdom. In a world obsessed with quick results, the man who can wait and work stands out effortlessly. Ultimately, semen retention is not merely about abstaining from release. It's about aligning your energy with higher order. It's about converting desire into discipline, and discipline into destiny. When practiced consciously, it becomes a path to inner freedom. The man who walks this path discovers that his greatest power was never in what he could gain, but in what he could govern. That governance over self makes him magnetic, not because he seeks attention, but because he embodies truth. In the end, masculine magnetism is not something to be learned or performed. It is something to be revealed. It already exists within every man, waiting beneath layers of distraction and weakness. Semen retention simply clears the path for it to shine. It teaches a man to value his energy, his time, and his purpose. The moment he begins to live from that awareness, everything in his world begins to shift. People respect him, women admire him, and life itself bends in his favor, not by chance, but by energetic law. This is the power of retention, the mastery of self that makes the external world reflect your inner strength. When a man masters semen retention, he masters his focus, his emotions, and his destiny. He becomes the embodiment of masculine magnetism, strong yet compassionate, disciplined yet alive, powerful yet peaceful. His presence influences without intention, his silence speaks louder than words, and his life becomes a reflection of balance. This is the true reward of the practice, not mere attraction, but transformation. The man who controls his essence controls his reality, and through that control, he becomes what he was always meant to be. A force of purpose, integrity, and timeless power. All right, You've got this incredible energy, now don't let it dissipate. Before you click off, prove you are here. Smash that like button, and if you're serious about this journey, hit subscribe right now. This isn't just a channel, it's a movement. I want to know where the next wave of power is coming from. So drop your city or country in the comments below. For direct answers and our inner community's best secrets, the Telegram link is in the description. And please, share this fire with the one person who needs it most today. Go be a force. Have a truly powerful day.